Well, we're heading into the second half of 2026, and for the first time in 4 years, we are seeing lots of positive signs in the data for the Austin market. Could this be a little bit of a summer surprise? Let me show you what I'm seeing. Well, this is the newest data from June. We finally have June stats in. So, as we look at the metro as a whole, we're sitting just under 5 months of inventory. That's fairly healthy there. Still a lot, but that's improving over what we've seen in years past. If we look at the supply chart, I know it might be hard to see in your video, but the supply is holding a little lower than we saw last year. So, for the first time in 4 years where supply has just been climbing, climbing, climbing. Maybe we've peaked out. We're finally starting to see supply dip below last year, at least for the past couple months. So May and June, I think that's a good sign. If we look over on the demand side on the right, the 10-year average is that those dotted bell curves. But, we were pretty up there with the demand through the spring. It's dropping a little bit below the 10-year average. However, it's still significantly above, like double digit better than we saw last year. So demand is up, supply is down a little bit. Those are positive trends. But here's where it's really going to show up in kind of granular numbers. So again, this is looking at, I ran this chart, or I ran this data in Travis, Williamson, and Hayes. These are our top 3 counties. Okay. Think everything up and down 35. So if we look at the June data, number of sales, pretty neck and neck with last year, basically break even. But dollar volume up almost 6%, price per square foot up almost 2%, median sale price in June up 2%, average sale up 5.7%, and days on market, flat, but basically down. All those are green lights. Now, this does not mean the market's appreciating again and things are going to be great for sellers. We're not saying that at all. I think what we're saying is we might finally be stabilizing a little bit, especially when it comes to single family. I want to make that point because, 85% of the market is single family homes. But if you're in other categories, maybe condos or townhomes, duplexes, the stats are going to be different. Okay. Especially condos, that market is much slower. But as we look at the market as a whole, we've now had 2 months where almost all of these are green lights. So that tells me, and our median sales price right now is up maybe 10 grand over what we saw this time last year. This does not mean that's what August is going to look like and what October is going to look like, but it's a very good sign that we are starting to see that improvement. If I come over here and look at inventory, number of new listings. This is how many sellers are bringing properties to the market. It's pretty flat with last year, but it was up 0.7%. But again, we've got the same number of sellers coming to the market, but under contracts, the demand side, the buyer side, that's up 13.3%. So again, compared to last year, where I think that was our bottom in terms of the weakness in terms of buyer demand, now we're starting to see buyer demand improve, and that's helping with the supply side of the equation. And then finally, let's talk about price reductions, because those are still a big part of the market. We still have a lot of supply. Right now, 54% of properties have that are on the market right now have had at least one price reduction, and typically in about 16 days is where they're making price adjustments. So if you think about a house comes on the market, tests the price for a couple weeks, if they're not getting the activity that they want, well, you need to adjust that price and get to a better position where you think buyers might take more interest in that property. So that's where you're seeing over half the sellers still doing price adjustments to get to their end buyer. This is historic sales price trend for the past 2 years, and it's a bell curve every year. You've seen it on all these charts. It kind of price goes up in the spring, kind of flattens off about now, and then it jig-jags down through the fall. The goal is you want it to end the year higher than it started the year, and we call that appreciation. If it ends lower at the end of the year than it started, then typically it depreciates or it's price softening. And so the last 4 years, we've had price softening. Every year, the home values have been coming down. But I think this chart's pretty interesting. Obviously, price goes up 2024, and then it comes down. Usually, you'll have a little blip at the end of the year. You kind of have a lot of sales get pushed into December. Investors, buyers, people want to close before the end of the year. So you do sometimes get a blip, but then the price starts over. But you see the price go up again think like January to May. And then, of course, it adjusts going down the second half of the year. This year's been a pretty smooth line up from January through June. Which is longer than normal. Typically, we would have already peaked off in April or May, but now it's still going up into June. I think it should be peaking off about now. We're going to keep an eye on that. But typically, that's a good sign. And right now, our median sales price is higher as a total than it was last summer. Don't overthink that. That doesn't mean your house went up, or it doesn't mean any single specific house went up. But it just means as a market, sales are holding up okay. And I think that's a really positive sign. One thing that's going on in Austin long-term, and this has to do with our tech growth. So this story came out this last week. The semiconductor industry, Texas has these Texas semiconductor grants. And so Austin is getting 80% of the money in Texas from these grants. So you think Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Abilene, El Paso, doesn't matter. Austin's getting 80% of the money. What that tells you is the semiconductor industry is still heavily focused on the Austin area. So expect that, with SpaceX going public, with all these semiconductor plants taking off, Tesla's expanding, there's a lot of growth happening here. And we oversupplied the market. But what's happening is as that supply comes down a little bit, job growth continues to grow, population growth continues to grow. All those factors are what help stabilize the market and get it back going positive, which looks like either this year or by next year, those green lights might stay sticky and you'll see Austin start to improve. Finally, let's talk about mortgage rates. It was a busy week last week. You had jobs reports, you had the Fed talking. Basically, rates went up a little bit. We were, I think, 6.5 at the end of last week. Now we're at 6.6 for this, starting on Monday. We'll watch this. Like I said, it's been volatile. You really got to watch it. Watch the bond market. Don't pay as much attention to the Fed, the bond market, the 10-year Treasury. When it's going up, you're typically going to see mortgage rates go up. When it's going down, you'll typically see mortgage rates going down. So that is the one to watch. Well, if you are a seller right now, look, it's been a rough 4 years. We have seen the prices adjust down. It's been hard. It's been hard to find buyers. I'm not saying that the challenges are over, but I think the market is taking a breath and it's going sideways. It's finally starting to stabilize. It doesn't mean things sell fast, but it just means things are selling fairly. I think that's the best way to put it. If you are a buyer right now, if we look at supply, well, this is the number one time of the year to find the most homes on the market. Typically, June, July, parts of August, that's where the number of listings is kind of peaking out. It will start to decline as we go into the fall. It's not declining because they're all selling. It's declining because there's not as many sellers bringing homes to market in late summer and in the fall. And so it's really that supply just starts to dwindle naturally that way. But anyways, great time to look at that. Anyways, hope this video was helpful. We're going to bring these newscasts to you each and every Monday. You can go to our YouTube channel at Ryan Kelly Group, click that subscribe button. Would love for you to follow us there. And of course, if you know anybody looking to buy, sell, invest, or finance here in Austin, great opportunities are coming. And a great time to start that conversation, talk about how we can help you. Anyways, hope you guys had a wonderful July 4th. It was a nice weekend, bright and sunny. Hope everybody got some outside time, and we'll talk to you next Monday. Thanks.